We've got our third resolution today, which is on consumer protection. And it's proposed by Ann Davison, our Vice President, who you've just met, Vice President for International Affairs, and Arnold Pinder, who I'm delighted to see on Zoom. Hello, Arnold. Arnold is from the National Independent Consumer Association. So I'm going to hand over to Anne and Arnold to propose and second our third resolution of the day, and I will set the timer. Over to you, Anne.
The National Council of Women, in conference assembled, calls on the government to ensure the necessary information, advice and protection is in place for consumers of green products and services. Consumers need more support to do their bit to reduce carbon emissions and protect the planet. Half of UK consumers say their concern about climate change has increased over the last 2 years. 73% of consumers believe that a sustainable lifestyle is important because their actions have an impact. But the unfamiliar causes anxiety, and consumers lack confidence in business claims. Consumers have trouble finding trusted sources of information and are nervous about greenwashing. Consumers have difficulty working out how to keep the cost of greener living down. They say that making such changes is too difficult, too confusing, too expensive. 63% say living sustainably will cost them more. They overestimate the importance of recycling and underestimate the impact of food and transport. Addressing more affordable energy supply from renewable sources and cheaper, more efficient home energy products will be an effective way of meeting consumers' concerns. But it needs to be backed up by having easy access to reliable information on steps we can take in fighting the climate crisis. For example, making decisions about energy use in one's household is complex and daunting. But a ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 2035 and a ban on the installation of gas boilers in homes, with an exemption for poorest households, from 2035 means that consumers will need to make major changes to some of their biggest purchasing decisions and grapple with new product and service models in the near future. New products and services need to be effective and easy to understand and come from a low-risk supply base without poor performers or rogue traders. For this, effective regulation and enforcement is needed. 40% are considering purchasing energy-efficient appliances. They need to be reassured about the safety issues. For example, the charity Electrical Safety First is calling for independent third-party safety assessments of electric bikes and e-scooters and their lithium-ion batteries. The consumer movement has been very much weakened over the last 2 decades, with the closure, for instance, of the National Consumer Council, Consumers Food Group, Consumers in Europe, and Consumer Focus. Trusted consumer supply and backup advice is much needed as new mitigations of climate change come onto the market. That's the text of the resolution. So, what is it that we need that will make people act against climate change? The National Council of Women is looking to help, and we're particularly addressing 3 issues, 3 ways of helping. First of all, there's awareness. People have to know that there is a problem, and we're constantly highlighting this through resolutions and through our social media and internationally. Secondly, they need reassurance that there is international action and global cooperation. We need to know that there is efforts being made worldwide, and that we're not making our own efforts alone, just crying into the wind. So last year's climate change resolution focused on pressing the international community to do more. And we've since submitted a resolution as well to the International Council of Women, seconded by Canada and Malta. And we'll press this issue again at international meetings in 2025. Then thirdly, as consumers, we need to know what actions we can take that make a real difference. And we need to be reassured that the green goods and services that we go for are safe, reliable, effective. We're naturally cautious about new propositions. It's just part of human psychology. Our new associate, the National Independent Consumer Organisation, is helping us with this. And it's a great example of the benefits of having associates. Climate change is not a distant threat, but an immediate risk to health. Once again, last year broke climate change records with extreme heat waves, deadly weather events such as floods and tornadoes, and devastating wildfires affecting people around the world. In 2023, extreme drought lasting at least 1 month affected 48% of the global land area, while people had to cope with an unprecedented 50 more days of health-threatening temperatures than would have been expected without climate change. Heat-related deaths among the over 65s rocketed by 167% in 2023, compared with the 1990s. Governments had previously agreed to act to avoid the global temperature rise going above 1.5 degrees centigrade, which was seen as essential to prevent the most damaging impacts. But we're finding out at COP29 that the world is likely to breach this limit, taking us pretty much into uncharted territory, and also a situation where one problem provokes more of another, like extreme heat results in fires, which releases more carbon dioxide. So it's called tipping points. Huge swathes of ice are likely to melt. Many grasslands will be converted to desert, and sea levels will rise. Governments agreed at COP28 last year, which is when they have the big international discussions about climate change, to transition away from fossil fuels in energy systems. But in fact, carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuels are projected to reach a new high in 2024, up 0.8% from 2023. COP29 is meeting right now amid arguments over financing green measures. The UN Secretary General says all countries should bring forward their net zero plans by a decade. We are being represented at COP29 by the Portuguese Women's Platform, in fact, partly by the young woman who's setting up the international network of young women, and by Dr. Husna Ahmed, who is a member of National Council of Women and a seconder of this resolution. Or was she a seconder of the education one? There are significant opportunities for win-win solutions that can combat climate change and improve health. For example, supporting nature, planting trees, and protecting green space, insulating poor housing, which also tackles fuel poverty, reduces costs. Reducing food waste, which is also a way of saving money, using public transport, and safer walking and cycling initiatives. But to go beyond these easier win-win solutions, consumers need more help. For example, with the complex issue of heating our homes. And Arnold Pinder, I'm glad to say, will speak to this now. The decisions we make today will determine the severity and extent of climate impacts inherited by the next generation, represented here today.
Thank you, Anne. Arnold, over to you. There's about 2.5 minutes left.
Hello, and apologies, but I've got rather more than 2.5 minutes, so you can shut me off when needed. Firstly, I'm delighted that our consumer organisation has joined the National Council of Women as an associate member. Climate change is an immediate area on which we can cooperate, supporting activities to ensure net zero goals are achieved and that consumers are protected to ensure they do not suffer from inadequate goods and services, poor workmanship, or from rogue traders. Taking the home as our focus in the this consumer organisation has drawn us into climate change issues. We held 2 consumer congresses, 2020 and 23, to deal with climate change. Consumer Congress is a mechanism to bring together government, businesses, consumer organisations and other interested parties to discuss and make recommendations to support consumer interest in key areas. Focusing on the home has allowed us to consider energy saving in our homes. There are in the order of 29 million homes that need retrofitting to make energy savings by 2050, according to the UK Green Building Council. Roughly 1/5 of UK's total carbon emissions come from residential properties. Hence, if we can be successful in reducing these emissions, we will contribute significantly to zero carbon targets. Of more immediate importance, it will also contribute significantly to cost of living savings, reducing the cost of heating our homes. Anne, in proposing this resolution, has described 3 key factors that are a priority for the National Council of Women. In seconding this resolution, I want to concentrate on the 3rd factor, taking action to help us along the path to net zero. We should expect a lot from government in support of improvements in energy saving in our homes, but we cannot expect government to support and directly fund energy saving initiatives to all the many millions of homes that are in need of improvement. Government needs to concentrate on the disadvantaged that do not have the resources to help themselves. Grants to the wider community will help, but with such a huge undertaking, we need to make it easier for those resources, and we want to work together to ensure that this can be achieved. Thank you.
Perfect, Arnold. Thank you so much. And I think such important messages and startling statistics, actually, about the number of homes needing retrofitting. Thank you for reminding us of that. Thank you, Anne and Arnold. Do we have comments, observations, thoughts from amongst our audience here and online? Just looking online to see who we've got. Oh, Jan, you've got you've got the microphone.
Heather Carter, Darlington and District Group. For me, I think one of the most important things is food miles. And I would certainly like to see a lot more publicity in shops around the number of food miles that it's taken to get the food to supermarkets, and a lot more support for local providers to provide food locally.
Very good point. Thank you, Heather. Yes.
Can I speak to that, Gilly?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really complicated issue, actually, because I was a co-founder of the Fair Trade Foundation, so of course I do think as well about the income of poor farmers in developing countries who supply us. But also, it's not as simple as that, because it can be that there's less damage done to the environment by importing tomatoes, for example, that have been grown in the sun in Spain than in growing them in a greenhouse here using gas or whatever it is to heat the greenhouse. And also, because of cost pressures, the companies that transport food are really clever about the way they do so, and they don't waste space on their vans, for instance. So, yes, I mean, certainly I'm all in favour of supporting local food and local farmers. But I think there are nuances, and I also personally want to support imports from poor countries that have been shown to have made the effort of fair trade and similar similar marks to help them have a decent income and protect the environment where they live.
We've got a, thanks, is that it? Yeah. We've got a comment from Gwenda Kibble online. Would you like to come in,
Oh,
Gwenda?
sorry, Gwenda also seconded.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. My fault.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. We can't see you, Gwenda.
No, I'm very sorry about that. I had a very good conversation with Keith Janet earlier, further early on.
Yeah.
But then my picture disappeared. So very sorry about that. I actually combed my hair especially and got my nice badge on and everything. However, I'm still here, alive. I'm very pleased indeed to support Ann's resolution. I think that this again exemplifies what is so important about NCW throughout its history, and that is the collection and research that is done is so useful, accurate, worthwhile, and I do feel that it is very important that we do challenge government and all in authority and see that the correct information is supplied to consumers and women in particular. One very small piece of information that I saw the other day is that somebody has invented metal trees which absorb carbon dioxide. This is an intriguing thought that science perhaps is going to be helpful for us. But meanwhile, on the general population, it is just so important that all this information is correctly given to women so that they can really contribute to the issues of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwenda, and thank you so much for reminding us of the importance of research. I think what Anne and Arnold have presented to us has been a perfect example of that. Thank you so much. Any other comments, thoughts at this stage?
Was there anything else vital that Arnold wanted to say, I wonder?
Thank you. Yes, there's just a couple of points, I think, and that is that in refocusing our work, firstly, we need to work with other national and local organisations, especially local climate change groups, to provide support and education for them to work in their communities. And secondly, we need to work with national enforcement agencies and local trading standards departments to ensure consumers installing energy saving systems are protected from inadequate goods and services, poor workmanship and rogue traders. And those are the two key points that I think I'd like to make and where I think we can make a difference.
Very important points. Kath, did you have a comment?
Just very quickly, this summer...
Just grab a microphone. One. They won't be able to hear you online. There you go. There you go.
I toured around Scotland briefly this summer, and I said to the driver who was driving the bus, all these houses have got panels, sun panels. And he said, yes, it's law in Scotland. You can't build a house now unless the panels are put on. Why can't we accept that law down here as well? You know, pinch it from somewhere else. It was just so obvious.
Indeed. It's the
All
notion.
this building in Darlington that's going on, and none of them have got solar
Yeah.
panels.
Yeah.
May I come back very briefly on that? Locally to me, there is a major building project bringing in 400 homes into a little village of 1,000 homes, which is going to make a huge difference. And I questioned them about the changes in the law and how they would have to make changes, and why don't they make changes and improve the quality of their building now to improve the energy saving issues. And basically it was sort of pulled together in a slightly different way, but they said, no, not unless we're forced. So that's up to us to force them to do it by law.
Yeah.
That's precisely, but the Scottish government have enforced it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know, it's
Yeah.
not difficult.
And
It really isn't.
given the huge push for building houses that we've got in England at the moment, as distinct from Scotland, it does seem extraordinary.
And
yes,
I must
really
live-
good points.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Once again, I think I live in the most awful building for inefficiency. They have lights along all the corridors every metre, and they have to be on 24 hours a day, the Housing Association says, and they're not allowed to be off. And the gas boilers are so inefficient, you couldn't even believe it. So
indeed.
I'm in an awful place to live as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, really important points. And Arnold, thank you so much for seconding that motion, and Gwenda also. I hope there'll be lots of opportunities for us to work together with the Consumers Association and you, Arnold. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
No, not at all. Thank you. Thanks, Anne and Arnold. Thank you.